Because of why I search the deep through endless nights, no time to sleep. The call inside I can't deny. I'll find the light because of why.
Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a question that seems super simple, but trust me, it has a really fascinating and complex answer. Why on earth do Austrians speak German? I mean, it seems obvious, right? Maybe one was just part of the other at some point. Or maybe it's a new thing? Nope. The real story goes back over 1,000 years and is packed with empires, huge rivalries, and, believe it or not, some very strong opinions on the right word for a potato. So let's get right to it. The simple answer is this. The German language is way, way older than the countries of Austria and Germany. You have to imagine a time when people who spoke German were spread across Central Europe, long before anyone drew the lines on a map that we see today. A really good way to think about it is like American English versus British English. They're both English, obviously, but they've got their own accents, their own slang, their own flavor. You wouldn't say an American is just a different kind of Brit, would you? It's pretty much the same deal with German and Austria. It's its own thing with a totally unique history. All right, to really get this, we've got to jump in our time machine. We're going way, way back, long before any of these modern countries existed. We're talking about an age of migrating tribes and massive sprawling empires. So, picture this. It's around the 6th century. Germanic tribes, like a group called the Bavarii, are settling in the area we now call Austria. And of course, they bring their language with them. For the next 1,000 years, this whole region is a key part of the Holy Roman Empire. And this is super important. Back then, being German wasn't about what passport you held. It was about the language you spoke and the culture you shared. And get this, the name itself is a huge clue. The earliest mention we have is Ostarrîchi, from a document in 996. You know what that means in Old High German? The Eastern Realm. It was literally the eastern edge of the German-speaking world. The name tells the whole story right from the very beginning. Okay, so for hundreds of years, you have all these different German-speaking kingdoms and states kind of vibing together in the Holy Roman Empire. But then, we hit the 19th century, and everything starts to get messy. Two big players emerge, and they have completely different visions for the future. You could almost call it the Great German Divorce. This was a classic heavyweight fight. In one corner, you've got the Austrian Empire, the old champion, the historic leader. Their plan? A greater Germany. Unite all the German speakers, with them, of course, in charge. But in the other corner, you have the ambitious up-and-comer, Prussia, based around what's now Berlin. Their plan was for a lesser Germany, one that they could control, and that meant shoving their rival Austria right out of the picture. And it all came to a head in 1866. There was a short, sharp war, and Prussia won. That was it. That was the fork in the road. Prussia goes off and creates the German Empire in 1871, uniting all those northern states. And Austria? They were officially left out. They had to pivot, forming the huge, multi-ethnic Austro-Hungarian Empire, looking east instead of north. Their political paths split, and they never came back together. So Austria is now on a totally different track politically. But the language? Well, the language didn't just disappear. Just like our American English example, the German spoken in Austria kept doing its own thing, evolving its own unique words, its own flavor, and even some really cool grammar twists. And check this out, it's not even as simple as one Austrian German. Nope, it's a whole rainbow of different dialects. Over in the West, they speak Alemannic dialects, which sound a lot like what you'd hear in Switzerland. But then most of the rest of the country speaks different types of Bavarian. It's incredibly diverse. And nowhere are these differences more fun or more delicious than in the kitchen. Seriously, if you're in Vienna and you ask for a Kartoffel, for a potato, yeah, they'll know what you mean. But the real local word is Erdapfel, which literally means earth apple. How cool is that? A tomato is a Paragus. An apricot is a Marilla. And this isn't just slang, you guys. These are the official, standard words in Austrian German. It's not just about food, though. There are some little grammar differences, too. Like, in the German you learn in school, you'd say, I have sat. Ich habe gesessen. But in Austria, it's super common to say, I am sat. Ich bin gesessen. It's a subtle little twist, but it's one of those things that immediately tells you where someone's from. Okay, so this brings us to the most recent part of the story, and maybe the most important, identity. You've got this shared language, but these two totally separate histories. And for a long, long time, well, figuring out who you were was complicated, to say the least. Believe it or not, for decades after that great divorce, most German-speaking Austrians still thought of themselves as Germans. It's true. After World War I, when their huge empire collapsed, the tiny new country was actually called German Austria for a bit. They even wanted to join Germany, but the winners of the war, the Allies, put a stop to that. But then came World War II. After the absolute horrors of the war and the Nazi annexation of Austria, everything changed. The whole idea of a greater Germany became toxic. It was completely rejected. And in the years that followed, Austria made a very conscious choice to build a new identity, one that was totally separate from Germany's. They really emphasized their own unique history and culture. And that shift in thinking was massive. Today, the results speak for themselves. More than 90% of Austrians see themselves as a completely separate nation. The German language they speak is a huge part of their cultural heritage, for sure, but it's no longer a sign that they're part of some larger German nation. So what does this all mean? Austria's story is just a perfect example of how things like history and politics can create a totally unique national identity. It really makes you think, right? A shared language doesn't automatically mean a shared identity. The same language can have many, many different homes. So what do you think about all this? It's pretty fascinating, isn't it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And hey, if you enjoyed this little journey through history, do us a huge favor and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, and maybe share this with a friend who's also curious. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.